everybody, welcome to my homestead and welcome to my channel. In this video, I want to talk about Priestcraft and what it is, what it looks like, and the different forms that it can take. So if you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe, like this video if you end up liking it. Make sure to leave your comments and your thoughts below, and then also make sure to share this. So as I've been doing this YouTube channel, this is something that comes up from time to time. So I thought it would be wise to research this myself, make sure that everything's okay, and maybe help others understand what priestcraft is. So this is a talk. It's called "The Dangers of Priestcraft." Paul V. Johnson, CES Administrator, Religious Education in Elementary and Secondary Education, from the CES Conference on the Doctrine and Covenants in Church History, 2002. Okay, so this is where I'm getting this information from. They go over scriptures and quotes from prophets so that we can be very clear what this is. Okay, what are priestcrafts? Nephi gives us a very succinct and helpful definition. You know what, let me zoom in. Okay. Quote, "He commandeth that there shall be no priestcrafts, for behold, priestcrafts are that men preach and set themselves up for a light unto the world, that they may get gain and praise of the world, but they seek not the welfare of Zion." Nephi explained that, quote, "They set themselves up for a light unto the world in order to, quote unquote, get gain, or to, quote unquote, get praise, and they do not seek the welfare of Zion." There are various manifestations of priestcraft, including setting up churches or even becoming antichrist, as we see in the Book of Mormon. But let's focus on manifestations that we're more likely to see in our profession as CES educators. And I would argue this also applies to YouTubers and also to people that do podcasts or that write books or that produce church-related materials, whether it's art or music or whatever. These are probably a lot more subtle than cases like Nahor or Korihor, but they still fit under the definition of priestcraft as given by Nephi, and they will damage the work. They will damage our students, they will damage us to get gain. From Nephi's definition, we see that setting oneself as a light seems to be central to the problem of priestcraft. The reasons for setting oneself up as a light include getting gain and praise. Elder Spencer W. Kimball, who was then a member of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles, gave the best explanation I've heard. Quote, "I want our youth never to be taught by mercenaries. Should any of you be teaching in this program merely as an occupation, almost wholly for the compensation, then I hope you'll be assigned to one of the other areas. But if your salary is incidental, and your grand and magnificent obsession is our children and their growth and development, then I hope you'll be teaching in New York and Michigan and Wisconsin and Utah, where my loved children are." Okay, that is a key. That is a great key for us. Where is our heart? If it is for the welfare of Zion and its youth, I think we are in good shape. The reason why I'm bringing this up is because I have chosen to monetize my channel. And the reason why I've done that is because I felt like I wanted to do this channel. I kind of feel like maybe I was prompted to do it. And I think I have a lot of good stuff to share and also to help people watch for the signs of the times. Not so much to try and define scripture, but just to talk about and watch for the signs of the times. Because me being blessed with all this time, because I'm self-employed, I don't have a job that I go to. I employ myself. I have an open schedule. I have the time to sit here and do research and pull stuff together, look at the news, pull together interesting things that would be of interest to anyone else that's watching for the Signs of the Times, right? This is mostly a Second Coming channel, and so we discuss all those things. But you know what? It takes a lot of time to do all this. And so if I have the option to monetize my channel, I'm going to do it. And I'm going to keep going through this article, and you'll see that there's not a problem with it. It all depends on where is our heart, okay? If it's not for the welfare of Zion and its youth, I think we're in good shape. Now, I'm going to show you examples of other people and groups and stuff like that that also do work that they get paid for. But you have to understand that these videos, they take a lot of work because it takes a lot of searching, it takes a lot of reading, it takes a lot of going through emails and comments and trying to put it all together. Okay, so I can't see somebody that has a full-time job being able to do what I'm doing. I'm putting out videos every day. And yeah, I have the option to monetize, which means that you get ads in your videos. If you don't pay for a YouTube service, which I actually do, I pay I think it's like $10 a month, and I use YouTube for my music because instead of doing like Spotify or someplace like that, YouTube has YouTube music. And so that way I get my YouTube music, and then I also get all videos without ads. So for me, watching other people's channels, it's not an issue. Maybe that's something that you'd like to think about doing if ads are a real problem for you. And if you watch a lot of YouTube, just keep in mind you can also get music along with it. But I cannot do all this research without getting paid, okay? I would have to slow it down considerably. And I don't want to do that because there's so much to talk about. And there's so many things that are happening in the world, okay? So this keeps coming up about, oh, uh, you have ads on your channel, so you're committing priestcraft. I've heard people say that both in the comments and also like on other channels. They believe that priestcraft has to do with money, and it doesn't, as I'm about to show you here. It can be if that's the sole purpose uh, for which you're doing whatever you're doing. I would hope that, especially for those of you that have been watching me for a while, I would hope that you have this sense that I'm not doing this for money and that I actually really care about it and I'm passionate about it and I'm excited to share things that I come across. Okay. I would hope that that's your opinion of me. And if it's not, then you know what? It's not for you to judge because you don't know what's in my heart. You don't know what's in other people's heart. I'm not the only LDS YouTuber that monetizes their channel, right? So this is not somewhere where you are called to judge. Okay. Now you can have your own opinion, but please don't be rude. Okay. And okay, I'm going to go through the rest of this. Okay. So, so I think we're in good shape. I ask a question. Can a person receive a salary in CES and not be involved in priestcraft? Yes, definitely. Can a person publish? Okay, kind of like what I'm doing. Can a person publish, get paid for continuing education, or take advantage of other opportunities and not be involved in priestcraft? Yes, they can. It is a matter of the heart. And that's a matter of which I might point out that you cannot judge. It's between the person that's producing whatever the product is or the service and God. What is the motivation? What President Kimball said is a key in this area. Where our hearts are set on money, it clouds our view and leads to bad decisions. If that's the only reason that you're doing a YouTube channel, if that's the only reason you're becoming a seminary or an institute teacher, if you're doing it for the money, that's not good. Okay, praise of the world. Okay, so maybe it's not just about money either. Maybe if you have a YouTube channel that's not monetized, but you're doing it for praise of the world, maybe you're engaged in priestcraft. Some teachers have strong desire for praise. You know why? Because there are people out there that are narcissists. I have a whole channel that's devoted to narcissism. I'll put it in the description below in case you want to check it out. Narcissists are people that the way that they survive emotionally is they have to get attention from others, whether that be in the form of validation or praise. Um, it could be any kind of attention. It doesn't matter, just as long as someone is observing you. Ideally, it should be good, but negative attention is just as good. I'm being completely serious. They just need to be seen, and ideally, at the best case scenario, be worshipped. Okay, it's really sick, and so that's what some people do. Whether it's our church or another church, that's what the Pharisees were doing during Christ's days. That they were trying to harvest this praise or this narcissistic supply. And Christ talks about that over and over again. How they want to look the part so that people will give them the praise, but they don't want to actually do what they were called to do. They should have been the leadership of the church uh, and be doing things in righteousness because they were righteous on the inside when Christ came. He wasn't upset so much about what they were actually doing. It was why they were doing it. And it was because they were fake. They were fake leaders. Anyway, you can read about that. I think we actually just read about that in my family scripture study. I think it was in Matthew 23. He talks about that. So anyway, let's continue. In order to obtain that praise, they might begin to set themselves up as a light. When people look to them as a light, they are willing to give the praise they desire. This may increase their desire for more praise. Well, what do you know? And the cycle continues. It becomes dangerous because it can lead to teachers changing the doctrine or teaching things that shouldn't be taught or using teaching methods that shouldn't be used in order to appear as a light. And frankly, I feel like there are people that have done that. I'm not going to name any names, but I think there are people that change things. They go off on their own expanded universe, of the gospel, the gospel expanded universe, where they're starting to basically create this world that they've concocted using elements from the gospel. Okay, words of the brethren. Okay, in 1992, Elder Dallin H. Oaks said, quote, "Another illustration of a strength that can become our downfall concerns the charismatic teacher. With a trained mind and a skillful manner of presentation, a teacher can become unusually popular and effective in teaching. But Satan will try to use that strength to corrupt the teacher by encouraging him or her to gather a following of disciples." Now, on YouTube, there's no avoiding that. That's how YouTube works. Okay. And of course, you want to do well at YouTube. But what is in your heart? Why are you doing it? Is it solely for money? Is it solely for praise because you're trying to get attention and you want to feel special? A church or church education teacher or LDS university professor who gathers such a following and does this for the sake of riches and honor or praise or whatever is guilty of priestcraft. Okay? An LDS university professor or education teacher who gathers such a following and does this for the sake. So, in other words, if you have a following, that's not a bad thing. But if you're trying to get a following for the sake of riches and for honor, you're guilty of priestcraft. Priestcrafts are that men preach and set themselves up for a light unto the world, that they may get gain and praise of the world, but they seek not the welfare of Zion. Okay, let's go down a little bit. Let's see, who's this? President Howard W. Hunter, who was then president of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles, addressed us at our annual evening with the general authority. He said, quote, "Let me give a word of caution to you. I'm sure you recognize the potential danger of being so influential and so persuasive that your students build in allegiance to you rather than to the gospel. And I'm going to tell you right now, again, without naming anyone in particular, this isn't directed at, I've seen it like in multiple cases where you have people that their followers are just very, very um, have this allegiance to them and like what they're saying. And I would hope that none of you have that for me. I just want to try as objectively as possible, just present information using primarily church material and scriptures and talks and so on and so forth. And then you just decide for yourself what you want to think. And I always put all the references below so you can go to them, so you can study on your own, so that you can know, oh, I didn't know that this article existed. And then you can go there and then read the whole thing, because I usually don't read the entire article, just like what I'm doing here. I'm not going to go over this whole thing, but I'll put the link below in case you're interested in reading the whole thing. Uh, but there is a genuine danger here. That is why you have to invite your students into the scriptures themselves, which I try and do all the time. I hope you realize that. Not just give them your interpretation and presentation of them. Okay, not just. You can give your interpretation and your thoughts about it, but it shouldn't just be that. Take who you're sharing stuff with. Take them to the source material, the scriptures, conference talks, Liahona articles, whatever. Okay. That is why you must invite your students to feel the Spirit of the Lord, not just give them your personal reflection of that. That is why ultimately you must invite your students directly to Christ, not just to one who teaches his doctrines, or in other words, you, however ably. You will not always be available to these students. You cannot hold their hands after they have left high school or college, and you do not need personal disciples. Please make sure the loyalty of these students is to the scriptures and the Lord and the doctrines of the restored church. Okay, now this is... Sorry, I guess this is just continuing. Let me offer a word of caution on the subject of teaching with the Spirit. Okay, I love this here. I love this. And I know that you've seen this, and I've seen this all growing up, and every time I do, I roll my eyes and I want to scream. I think if we are not careful as professional teachers working in the classroom every day, we may begin to try to counterfeit the true influence of the Spirit of the Lord by unworthy and manipulative means. I get concerned when it appears that strong emotion or free-flowing tears are equated with the presence of the Spirit. Certainly, the Spirit of the Lord can bring strong emotional feelings, including tears, but that outward manifestation ought not be confused with the presence of the Spirit itself. And let me tell you something. This has affected me actually to the point where there have been times when I have not wanted to like give blessings or do anything with like the laying on of hands, because I've seen so many people that start to like cry, the free flowing of tears and all emotional, to where, most of the time I can't replicate that because it's not natural for me. I'm sure at some point it might happen, okay, but it feels like when you see all these people doing this, you have the obligation to also have strong emotion and cry every time you lay your hands on somebody's head. I know that sounds really bad, but I think that there really are people. I'm not gonna like try and say, oh, this person's just being fake, but I think that there definitely are fakers, and it looks like he has that concern too. People that appear to have strong emotion when they're teaching or giving a blessing, and then the free flowing tears. Um, it can affect others. It's affected me. I never, um, you know, not, I never turned down giving a blessing or doing what I'm supposed to do, but it just always makes me feel uncomfortable, because at that point it feels like there's a bar that you have to clear as far as being emotional. And I'm not going to do it. If it happens, then it happens, but I'm just going to be genuine. So if you're out there and you're putting on these performances, stop. Stop doing it because it has consequences that you may not be aware of. And by the way, a lot of times people can tell. A lot of times, maybe not all the time, but you can tell sometimes when someone is just uh, putting on a show and acting. And I know that sounds really harsh, but that's the truth. That's what this is all about. Priestcraft and narcissism. Okay, there's nothing more dangerous than when a student turns his or her love and attention, or narcissistic supply, to the teacher the same way a convert sometimes does to a missionary rather than to the Lord. And I've seen that too. I'm sure that you have as well. Okay, recognizing the signs. One of the challenges in recognizing and avoiding priestcraft is that it is a matter of the heart. It is like pride. In fact, pride is the root of the problem. Now, just so you know, if you're still with me, I want to show you some interesting things here. Okay, I have some other tabs pulled up, but I need to get through this article first. Okay, so pride, or another way of saying that, narcissism. In relation to gathering a following, one of the symptoms is that we base our self-worth, just like a narcissist does, on praise from others. Narcissistic supply for our lessons or talks. As I noted before, this is dangerous ground to be on because the accolades become the touchstone, and then we can compromise ourselves in what we teach or how we teach it so that we can get more accolades. Another symptom is that we feel there would be a huge hole in CES if they changed our assignment, just because we're so important and we bring so much to the table, right? We feel a little irreplaceable. Even if this were true, it might be better to allow those who make the changes to worry about that. If you really are irreplaceable, I'll bet they know about it already. Let's see. People might even have a stronger allegiance to that teacher than to their appointed leaders. Now that really becomes, well, the most serious problem is if you have more of an allegiance to somebody than Christ, and then it's also a big problem if you're following someone that's not an appointed church leader. Someone that does not have keys, someone that does not have authority over people that do have keys and do have authority. Perhaps some of us feel we teach deeper doctrine, more pure and plain, than is found in any curriculum or than any of the other teachers teach. Maybe we have special sources that others don't generally have access to, or we have some special study regimen that we feel puts us above the others. What if we feel that CES or the church are not emphasizing a certain doctrine enough, or even that they misunderstand it? Because we have the secret code and we have the secret understanding. In fact, there have been a few who feel the brethren don't understand a particular doctrine clearly. When it gets to that point, the canary has dropped over and is not breathing anymore. Those are strong words. Those are strong words. I certainly hope that no one gets to this point, that you think that you know more than the brethren. Okay, they are called of God, and they have the power of God. They're actually doing the actual work of the kingdom every day. That has become their job. Okay, so we probably need to be very, very careful about that. We may feel as if we have to know the answer to every question. We are embarrassed if a student asks us a question and we don't know the answer. Well, if you're prideful, I guess, I don't get embarrassed. Like, it's okay to not know. You're not a robot. We might look to certain general authorities or CES teachers as the ones with pure gospel and discount or put down other general authorities or other teachers. We might teach our own philosophies about the doctrines. I see a lot of, you know that there's a lot of that. You hear that all the time in Sunday school and Relief Society, I'm sure, and Elders Court. That, like, everyone, I'm sure, does that to some degree. But anyway, we might teach our own opinions strongly and try forcefully to sway the students to side with us. Another symptom not directly related to the CES classroom is establishing ourselves as the expert in our own wards and stakes in gospel matters. If there is ever a difficult question in gospel doctrine class, do most of the people look to us for the answer? We may be subtly setting ourselves up as a light. And I don't think that that's to say don't be smart and don't study as hard as much as you can. But if it gets to the point where like you're answering all the questions, or you want people to know that you're the go-to person, if that's what's in your heart, that's not right. But you got to be careful. Study as much as possible, but don't do it so that you get praise and so that people look up to you. Don't do it for those reasons. Do we feel frustrated with others because they don't seem to understand the gospel as well as we do? In the Book of Mormon, there was a time when, quote, the people began to be distinguished by ranks according to their riches and their chances for learning, end quote. We, as religious educators, probably have greater chances for learning the gospel than anyone in the world. Our employment includes studying and teaching the gospel. We need to be careful not to look down on others who don't have the same opportunity. Sometimes we promote an insight addiction syndrome, in which the students just have to come to our class because we have the true insight into the gospel. Now, that right there, that is a problem. This is the secret code. This is I've cracked the secret code. I have the secret understanding. And we can all, it's not just teachers or YouTubers. I'm sure that all of us in our own way are also guilty of this. Like, we think that we know the right way and the secret way. So we got to be careful. That's why we need to like really pay attention to what the general authorities are teaching, because when it comes to scriptures, they're not the clearest thing. They're not. If they were, everyone would be on the exact same page. There would be no question about anything. Now, the scriptures are true, but we got to make sure that we're on the same page as those that are in authority over this church. And the ultimate authority, of course, is Christ. They are under Christ, and they're the ones that are able to tell us the proper interpretations of scriptures. So instead of, leaning to our own strength and our own insights, make sure that it's not going outside of doctrine, that it's not in conflict with gospel principles and what the general authorities are saying, and the prophet and the apostles. One of the dangers with that, whether they are emotional insights or scholarly insights, is that the insight becomes an end in itself. It doesn't necessarily translate into living the gospel. See, and that's really right there where we should spend most of our time and effort, is trying to live the gospel, as in the commandments. It's good to learn these extra things. It is good. It is good, but don't have it be the end in itself, right? It's kind of like when you're like, if you're playing basketball or like some sport, you practice like the fundamental skills, all the time. You always do, whether it's dribbling or layups or whatever. Don't just get focused on shooting 3-pointers or the special moves that's gonna wow everybody. Like, those can be good too, but it's more important that you know how to dribble. That's kind of like a really important part of basketball. And you can never really get good enough at it. You got to perfect it and keep working at it and just get better and better and better over time. So anyway, that's kind of what comes to my mind when I think about that. We may become a so-called expert in a certain area of the gospel and may chafe at the policy of teaching different courses and institute. Pfft, boring, yawn. Now let's take a look at a few symptoms where we may be setting ourselves up as a light in an emotional or spiritual sense. We may become dependent on finding strongly emotional stories to use in our class, or we may use stories that focus unduly on ourselves and on our personal lives. I've seen that happen before. Of course, like, it's fun to like tell stories that have to do with you, but if like that's becoming like the focus and it's the Jared Davies show, then that's probably a problem. We may stretch stories so that they are not totally true. Oh, you think that ever happens? We may be very free with how often we tell students the Spirit told me to do something. Or, as President Hunter mentioned, we may manipulate emotions and label it as the Spirit. We may become too involved with personal counseling with students. This drives me nuts too. And I know and I know that I basically said that I felt prompted to do this channel. Um, but it's not actually saying that, of course. It's just like when you start to like use that as like a way to show people just how spiritual you are, because you do everything according to the Spirit. The way that you drive, it's according to the Spirit. The way that you do your groceries, it's according to the Spirit. Oh, you saw somebody and the Spirit told you to go say hi to them. It just sometimes it's genuine, but like if at some point it becomes like a fiction. You're lying. you're you're manipulating. You're trying to craft a kind of image for yourself that you want others to see. If our teachers are free of priestcraft, the students will love them, but they won't be dependent on them. They will love you, and they will be grateful for what you taught them, but they will be turned to the Lord. They'll be turned to their parents and their priesthood leaders. There will be miracles in the lives of the students, and we'll be able to witness them. We can do it. Since priestcraft is a matter of the heart, it is best battled and eradicated at a personal level. It is so much better to be self-regulating in these matters before they cause concern for priesthood leaders and supervisors. It is a matter that we must watch closely in our lives. It has a tendency to creep in if we are not diligent. Let's see, was there anything else? No. Okay. So there are people that will tell me, or they'll tell others, that we're committing priestcraft. And if your intent is pure, if you're actually doing it because you're trying to be kind and be like, hey, Brother Davies, careful, priestcraft, then I appreciate that. But I feel confident in my decision to monetize my channel. But if you're doing it because you don't like the person, or you're jealous of them, or you just don't like them for some reason, that's not your job. It's not your job, and you're not the judge of the matters of the heart. Okay? That's between me and the Lord. It's between other YouTubers and the Lord. It's between authors and painters and podcasters and whatever and the Lord. Okay, so anyway, so let's take a look at these examples here. So we have Deseret Book. Now, if you don't live in like in the Intermountain West, I don't know how many locations they have, but if you don't live out west, you're probably not too familiar with Deseret Book. Maybe you are. Maybe you do online shopping with them. But you have these bookstores called Deseret Book, and they're usually attached to the distribution center where you buy temple clothes and other things. Now, Deseret Book Company, it was founded by George Q. Cannon, which was an apostle. Okay, so this company that earns money and profit by selling books by content creators and other things, okay, they're promoting other people's books that they're getting paid for. And Deseret Book is a wholly owned subsidiary of Deseret Management Corporation. What's Deseret Management Corporation? Is a management and holding company of for-profit businesses owned by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Okay, so another way of saying that is that The church, through its holding company, owns Deseret Book. And not only Deseret Book, but there is another company, Seagull Book, formerly called Seagull Book and Tape, is an American retail chain bookstore focusing on products for members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, LDS Church, with over 24 stores in Utah, Idaho, Arizona, and Nevada. It was the second largest LDS bookstore until being acquired in 2006 by market leader Deseret Book. Okay, so Seagull Book got bought out by Deseret Book, which is owned by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints through Deseret Management Corporation. So the church owns these two companies, and these two companies right here sell all sorts of things. E-books, audiobooks, actual books, calendars, artwork. Let's see. In the Hands of the Lord by... This is by Down 8 Jokes, right? Maybe not. Well, you know that the general authorities, they write books and they make money off of books that they sell. There was like a bestseller. It was Stand a Little Taller by Gordon B. Hinckley. You remember that? Framed art, music, people make things for scriptures. Time Out for Women. I have no idea what that is. You can get gift cards, home decor. Okay, you see all these different authors right here. Thomas A. Waymont, Tyler McKellar, Thomas R. Valletta, David Butler. They have fiction and stuff too, so it's not all necessarily it's not all necessarily LDS. There are some like other things in there. Let's go down here. What else is there? More books by a bunch more people. Now, let's look at Seagull Book, and it's basically going to be, the same stuff, just kind of different. Cardigans, and I don't know how this works, but podcasts. I don't know how you get that through Eagle Book, but it looks like you have all these podcasters here. You have Real Talk, Come Follow Me. So these people are doing what I'm doing, and they're on Seagull Book's website. Does the church know about this? Are they committing priestcraft? Well, guess what? Neither you or me can say, because we don't know what's in these people's hearts. But I'm willing to bet that most of these people, maybe not all, but most of these people really care about the content that they're putting out. They enjoy studying the scriptures and also the things of the church, and then sharing it with others. And there is value in that. I get value whenever I watch Watcher Palmer, The Last Dispensation channel, The Greatest Cause. I just talked about him a couple of videos ago. So the church is fully aware that these people here are doing podcasts and video series, which, what's a video series? Well, that's basically what I'm doing. It's basically YouTube. So we got Real Talk, Between the Lines, Go and Be, a Latter-day lifestyle show by these two women right here. So as you can see, there is plenty of people out there that are making money for making books and podcasts and artwork. Let's see, shop categories: art and home, framed art, inspirational signs, home accents, statues, prints. Okay, we've got a bunch of books here. Modest clothing, multimedia, we got audio, music, movies. There's movies that maybe you've watched or maybe you haven't. Like there's these are old. They're really old, but I still enjoy them. The Singles Ward and the Singles Ward 2, and then the RM, and the Hailstorm Entertainment. They make that stuff. And then we got, let's see, rings, emergency preparedness, totes and bags, jewelry, treats and snacks, toys and games, puzzles, ties, oil vials, tie tacks. So, okay, be careful when you're telling somebody that they're committing priestcraft, because for one, you're not in a position to tell anybody that because you don't know that person's heart. It depends on what's in that person's heart. If you are doing an amazing job and you're really popular and you're having such great success with your book series that you're doing, that's an awesome thing, especially if you're being genuine. But if you're not being genuine, you're being a fake and you're doing it just for money or just because you want to feel special, then that's where the problem lies. It depends on what's in your heart. And no one is qualified to say what's in somebody else's heart. Only God. Okay? So please stop hassling me and other YouTubers, um, because hopefully this made the case for you right here. Um, I'm not going to stop doing ads because, again, this helps me do all this work. Um, it's a lot of time. You guys, it takes a lot of time and effort. And if I have the option, I'm going to do it. So anyway, that's all I have to say. I don't mean to be mean or anything, but it's just like it's kind of hurtful when someone accuses you of priestcraft and you're doing it for genuine purposes and you're genuinely excited about what you're doing and you like interacting with people and just having a pure heart. I'm sorry, I have a pure heart and I like doing this. I'm really glad that I have this opportunity to do this. I myself, through going through this process, I'm learning so much. This is essentially what this is like my study journal being put on YouTube. And, and that's and that's it. And it's really fun to share with others. It's fun to like find things that are going on in the world and doing videos about them and helping to raise awareness of the times that we live in. There is so much going on. I wish that I could cover it all. I do the best that I can. I hope that you're getting something out of it and that you're becoming more and more prepared and alert uh, about the second coming. So, okay, I'll just leave it there. So, if you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe, like this video if you liked it. Make sure to leave your comments and opinions and thoughts below. And then also make sure to share this. It would be great if more people became aware of this. And I'll talk to you guys later.